Pure American poetry. Red River is an absolutely perfect film and I cherish it deeply. It is a film that mythologizes itself. It is a fable about masculinity and strength. Red River deconstructs the social and psychological understandings of manhood. It is an examination of gender identity within the unforgiving parameters of pack mentality. It is about man's inherent misgivings. It's about an orphan and a domineering father figure. Both men are insecure and struggle with their manliness. As one man wrestles to maintain his carefully cultivated lionhearted disposition, the other attempts to delicately mold his own idea of gallantry. Red River is a western that is truly about American ideas of courage among men. It is about the changing tide of commerce and opportunity. It is about leadership and determination. It is about the unspoken love that exists between a master and his apprentice, a tutor and his pupil, a father and his son. Howard Hawks is the kind of director that I greatly admire. Unostentatious, almost anti-art in spite of himself. He was the most admirably unpretentious filmmaker of all time. His films were all deeply personal, yet they were entirely unsentimental. His films typically featured fiercely independent men who never took no for an answer. Hawks made 100 films all about the same man, the same archetype, Captain Ahab. Red River was his Moby Dick. Hawks hated grandiosity, yet Red River is certainly majestic. He despised teary-eyed films that were unapologetically self-conscious, and he had little respect for directors who were flamboyantly self-aware. Hawks was an obsessive genius, and Red River is a maddeningly beautiful western capable of being both psychologically stirring and fundamentally joyous. The film stars John Wayne and Montgomery Clift, and both men are equally impressive. Wayne made his character's startling deterioration come very intense and real, came to life in a very intense and real kind of way, while Clift was nearly antithetic to the Staples approach. Clift was tender and heartbroken, sad and brave, young and good. This is the newly evolved masculinity, hypersensitivity, almost, more in touch with his femininity. It is a manliness that Wayne does not admire or respect. Wayne's antiquated idea of manhood is displayed by his own viciousness and closed-mindedness. The tragedies in his life were obtained stoically and can be counted in the strands of gray in his hair. Wayne's character does not believe that Clift is what a man should be, what it should look like, what the archetype should represent, especially to a genre as virile, as manly, as it's full of bravado as the Western. Yet Clift is far more sophisticated, as he respects and recognizes, and I would say admires, Wayne's manliness, his idea of manhood, as well as pardons the man's glaring character flaws on account of his idea of his own gender identity. The new man is a complexity, the old is a simpleton. Wayne views Clift as a son. He essentially adopted him when he was a young boy after fleeing an Indian slaughter. Wayne does love and cherish him, but he also thinks the boy is incredibly soft and weak, if for no other reason than the boy's good-hearted disposition. Clift is constitutionally fair and sympathetic. He is also no coward. He is extremely heroic. He is also no stone. He is easily moved. Like I said, he's sensitive, a sensitive idea of man. It is an idea of manliness that Wayne cannot comprehend. They set out on a cattle drive that tests the bonds between father and son, between an older generation of men and the new generation of men. It is a cattle drive that determines what it takes to be a real man. Red River feels real. You feel like you're actually there with the men on the cattle drive. It feels so real. It is such a magical film. It's a marvel. bristling with adventure and man-handled determinations, it is a Western above all other Westerns. It is a masterwork that changed me. I spent a great deal of time talking about Red River's psychological and social motifs because the Western at its heart has to be nearly anti-capitalism because it has to be against the expansion of industry, because the industry is what killed the Old West, what killed the setting that this genre occupies. So at its heart, it has to be somewhat anti-industrial, at least, and which is by default anti-capitalistic and the expansion of industry. So these are obsessively interwoven into the film's fabric, yet Hawks was anything but sentimentally attached to these underlying themes. And you would never see Hawks call himself anti-capitalist in any way. He was, or John Wayne, they were fiercely pro-American in every sense of the terms. In fact, they hated the film High Noon because they found it to be anti-American. High Noon is known to be kind of a symbolic reaction to the McCarthy age, to witch hunts, starring Gary Cooper. It's a very good film. I really like High Noon, but they went so far as to be so kind of pissed off by the symbolism of High Noon, which is anti-American, but is poetic and it's really good. But they were so mad that they were inspired to make their own reaction to it, which would be Rio Bravo later on, which is the primary difference is that in High Noon you have a character who can't find anyone to stand by him in his time of need, and in Rio Bravo, an entire community comes together to help John Wayne and Dean Martin, who are in the same kind of situation. But Red River never feels pretentious because it never is. Red River is a dynamic treasure. It really is the greatest film of all time. A technical dazzler, an adventurous fable, and a brilliant art film that never once feels like an art film. Red River is the end-all be-all. Films simply don't get more enjoyable than this. Red River is filmmaking at its very best. It is a film that is perfect. One of my favorite films ever made. It was photographed impeccably, acted extraordinarily, and staged immaculately. It's movie magic, and it's mind-blowing. Abracadabra, this movie will kick your butt. I love Red River. Yeah, Montgomery Clift is also one of my favorite actors of all time. He's known as cinema's most beautiful losers because he lived such a sad, sad life. It's really interesting to compare something like Red River, which was so early in his career, to another Western that he made later on called The Misfits. Haunting deterioration of such a beautiful soul, beautiful talent, beautiful man. Red River is so good, so much fun, and I guess just as a consumerist side note, it's actually one of my favorite Criterion releases because they put a lot of effort into the release of Red River as opposed to some of their other films. It comes with the novel that the film was based on the Chisholm Trail, and comes with 2 different versions of the film. Comes with just basically everything you could ever want if you're a fan of the Howard Hawks masterpiece, which I certainly am. I love this movie so much, and I hope to actually go into it in a lot more depth in the future in a group analysis or something like that. This won't be the last time you'll be hearing about Red River because I love it, and I really can't stop talking about it whenever I get on the subject of great westerns, or more interestingly, the idea of gender identity, especially masculinity, as expressed through films. And Red River, I think, is one of the most complicated expressions of masculine identities and how they're cultivated and shaped and formed. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. My name is Zachary Conan. Subscribe, like, comment, share. I think you know the drill, so I'm not going to annoy you about it. But thank you very much for watching Red River and my video about it.